You wake up every morning believing you're beginning a new story. You stretch, check your phone, sip your coffee, and tell yourself, today will be different. But what if I told you that the day you're about to live has already been written? Not by fate, not by society, not even by God, but by you asterisk, the night before, in the final seconds before you drifted into sleep. There exists a hidden mechanism operating beneath the surface of consciousness, one that quietly determines the course of your days. It doesn't rely on luck, effort, or positive thinking. It obeys something much deeper, your emotional state as you fall asleep. In that fragile moment between wakefulness and dreams, you hand over the keys of creation to the subconscious, the silent architect of reality. Whatever feeling you sustain as you cross that invisible threshold becomes tomorrow's blueprint. Science calls it the hypnagogic state, the mind's twilight zone where brain waves slow and the gates between worlds open. Mystics have called it the sacred chamber, the portal between the seen and unseen. And every night, whether you know it or not, you step through it and give orders to the universe. Imagine your mind as a film studio. During the day, your conscious self is the actor on set, performing, reacting, improvising. But the script, that's written at night by your subconscious director. And when you wake up, the cameras are already rolling. Every emotion, every encounter, every so-called coincidence was placed there by that hidden director following your last emotional instruction. Neville Goddard, one of the great mystics of the 20th century, decoded this forgotten science. He taught that sleep is not rest, it's creation. That the conscious and subconscious unite like divine counterparts to conceive the events of your waking life. He called it the marriage of the Lamb. Science has studied the body during sleep, but ignored the spirit at work within it. Because to admit that the dreamer writes reality would mean admitting that power lies within every human heart, not within institutions, systems, or saviors. You see, 1/3 of your life, nearly 26 years if you live to 78, is spent sleeping. That's not an accident. It's a perfect ratio, a cosmic symmetry, 1 part programming, 2 parts execution. 8 hours to create the movie, 16 to act it out. Yet most people waste this laboratory of creation. They fall asleep angry, anxious, scrolling through news feeds, comparing lives, rehearsing failures. And the subconscious, faithful, innocent, literal takes all of that and says, very well, let's make more of this tomorrow. It does not judge. It only obeys. It cannot differentiate between imagination and fact, between fear and prophecy. It only knows what you feel. So if you fall asleep feeling unloved, it scripts a world that confirms it. If you fall asleep feeling blessed, it scripts miracles to match that frequency. Religion hid this under metaphors. Science dismissed it as fantasy. But ancient mystery schools knew that sleep was not escape, it was entry. In Egypt, initiates traveled to dream temples to heal and to receive divine revelation through sleep. In Greece, seekers spent nights in the Asclepion, the sanctuary of dreams, where priests taught them how to plant intentions in the subconscious mind. Even the Bible encoded it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Seals not suggests, not inspires, seals. The subconscious seals your emotional state and reproduces it with frightening accuracy. So the question is not, does it work? The question is, what are you programming tonight? Every emotion is a command. Every feeling before sleep is a spell cast into the invisible. And most people go to bed broadcasting frequencies of fear, lack, guilt, or resentment, without realizing those are the seeds of tomorrow. You might say, but I can't control what I feel. That's not true. You may not control the first thought that enters your mind, but you can choose which one you cradle as you fall asleep. You can hold a single feeling, peace, gratitude, love, until the body dissolves into rest. And that choice, that small act of emotional focus, becomes the most powerful decision you make in a lifetime. Neville called it the sleep-like state, the sacred in-between where the conscious mind fades but has not yet vanished. Scientists measure it as theta waves, slow, rhythmic, hypnotic. But instruments can't measure what happens beyond matter. In that half-lit moment, the gates between conscious and subconscious swing wide open. Whatever emotional vibration you sustain then imprints upon the field of possibility. The subconscious, vast and impersonal, contains infinite futures. Your feeling selects one. It's like tuning a radio. The station was always broadcasting, but you decide which frequency to live within. If you fall asleep in despair, you tune to a world of problems. If you fall asleep in peace, you tune to a world where those problems resolve themselves. Tomorrow is not punishment or reward, it's resonance. Now imagine humanity as a collective dreamer. If billions fall asleep in fear, the world itself becomes the embodiment of that fear. Wars, crises, scarcity, all projections of a species dreaming unconsciously. This is not conspiracy. It's cause and effect written into the laws of consciousness. The architects of society know it. That's why every screen glows until midnight. That's why your mind is fed chaos before bed. Because a fearful population dreams predictable dreams, and a predictable dreamer is easy to control. But when a person begins to sleep consciously, the entire system trembles. Because such a person becomes unpredictable. They stop reacting. They stop obeying external scripts. They begin to live as dreamers aware of their own dream, and nothing threatens the machine more than that. So how do you reclaim this forgotten power? It begins with understanding the language of the subconscious. It does not respond to logic or argument. It responds to sustained feeling. Feeling is older than thought. Feeling is the native tongue of the soul. Before there were words, before there were symbols, there was vibration, pure, felt beingness. That's what the subconscious understands. Try this. Tonight, as you lie down, instead of scrolling or replaying the day, close your eyes and ask yourself one question. How would I feel if everything I desired were already true? Not how would I think, but how would I feel? Would there be relief, stillness, gratitude, peace? Capture that feeling not as imagination but as presence. Hold it gently. Then, without effort, let sleep take you. You've just planted the seed. Do it for 7 nights and your outer life will begin to rearrange itself. Not by miracle, but by law, because reality is elastic. It bends to the dominant feeling impressed upon the subconscious. You are not creating ex nihilo. You are selecting among infinite versions of reality that already exist. Feeling is the selector. And once chosen, the world reorganizes to confirm your inner state. That's why free will is both real and illusory. During the day, you think you're choosing, but every choice is a reaction to a script written the night before. Your only true moment of free will is that sacred window before sleep. That's when the director sits in the editing room and the film of tomorrow awaits your command. If you knew that the next 8 hours would determine the next 16, would you treat sleep differently? Would you enter it as a ritual instead of routine? Lie flat, let the breath slow, feel gravity as a friend, not a force. Imagine the day dissolving like mist. Now summon the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not the image, the feeling, because images still belong to the conscious mind. Feeling belongs to the creative womb of the subconscious. And just as a mother conceives in stillness, your subconscious conceives in emotional stillness. No agitation, no effort, no visual gymnastics. Only that quiet certainty that says, "It is done." This is why the great mystics spoke in the language of love. They weren't describing romance, they were describing creation. The Song of Songs wasn't an erotic poem, it was a manual for manifestation. I found him whom my soul loves. I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him into my mother's house. Translation: find the feeling of fulfillment, hold it until you drift into the house of the subconscious, and do not disturb it. Because if you stir it with doubt, it flees like a gazelle in the field. Creation requires stillness. The seed must rest in darkness before it blooms in light. You can't dig it up every morning to check if it's growing. You water it with trust. Most people fail not because the law doesn't work, but because they agitate the soil with impatience. They plant the seed and then spend the next day contradicting it with fear and worry. Then they say, "See, nothing happened." But nothing happens instantly in the field of time. The subconscious moves with precision, aligning billions of details that your conscious mind could never calculate. It's not slow, it's meticulous. You only need to feel once with purity, and it will echo through the universe until the scene appears. Neville used to say, "The feeling of the wish fulfilled must be the dominant mood." Dominant doesn't mean constant. It means strongest at the moment of transfer, when sleep overtakes wakefulness. That's when the gatekeeper of the subconscious opens, receives the message, and seals it. After that, your only task is to live as if it were already done. Notice how nature mirrors this. The tree doesn't strain to grow. The river doesn't try to flow. The sun doesn't ask permission to rise. Creation is effortless when aligned with law. And the law of consciousness is this: whatever feeling you take into the darkness of sleep becomes the light of day. Once you grasp this, you begin to see life differently. You stop begging reality to change. You start programming it from within. You stop praying for miracles and start performing them in silence. Because prayer is not words, it's alignment. It's emotional union with the outcome you desire. It's the fusion of conscious intention with subconscious belief. Tonight, humanity will again drift into sleep. Billions of minds, unaware of their power, will carry the residue of the day into the invisible realm. And tomorrow will rise, shaped by that collective residue. But among them, a few will enter sleep differently. They will close their eyes and feel the peace of answered prayers. They will release the tension of striving and surrender to knowing. And when they wake, the world will subtly bend around them. Maybe you'll be one of them, because here's the paradox. The dreamer is eternal, but the dream changes nightly. Each morning, you are reborn from the womb of your subconscious into a new world. If you hate that world, change your